Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of As Good as It Gets. I'm Ricky Hampton with my great friend Derrick Gervin, former shooting guard for the New Jersey Nets, now the Brooklyn Nets. And Derrick is still a Nets fan today, a long-suffering Nets fan because they can't get it right. They just haven't been able to get it right, man. They thought they had the pieces, didn't work out. When they had Simmons and Harden and Kyrie and they've had everybody. But we'll get more into that. First and foremost, my brother, how you doing?
Doing all right, sir. Hanging in there. Enjoying this hot weather in Texas. It's even hot to me, so that's pretty warm.
Yeah, man. This heat wave is going all over the country. You know, it's going to be 85 in Detroit tomorrow, which for us is like, man, what are we going to do? And that's nothing.
Well, I'll give you 10 degrees because it's going to be about 105 here tomorrow.
I know. Stay hydrated, man. Stay hydrated.
Oh, yes, no doubt.
But speaking of hot, and the weather in Las Vegas has been over 100 every day. It's hot outside, but it's also been hot in the arenas with the opening of Summer League. And just first and foremost, your thoughts of the first week of the NBA Summer League.
Well, I haven't watched as much and got as involved as I usually do. I'm still, some of the fans are still recovering from the season as well. As you know, it's a long season. But I have been tuning in a little bit, watching these young guys. And the good thing about it, Ricky, is I hope people understand when you're talking about this NBA Summer League, some people think it's just something to do for some of these players. And what they have to understand is there's no one that's playing in the Summer League that really shouldn't be playing. You got some second-year guys like Jabari Smith in Houston that are still trying to improve their games. Some things they feel that they could have worked on to improve last season. So they're taking the time this summer to improve on those things. And as far as the other players, all of these players, even the top picks, it's not necessarily about the team that drafted you. When you go to these summer leagues, it's about getting that one team that just is interested in you and they just can't get you out of their mind. And that's the biggest thing to me for the summer league. Me being a guy that was in that situation, I was fortunate to come out and play with a free agent team with myself, Reggie Theus, and Pooh Richardson and some more guys. And for me, that was my opportunity to be seen. I didn't go in with any particular aspirations other than being seen by the NBA team. And I caught the Nets' eye, and the rest was history.
Wasn't this out in L.A.?
Yes. When I played, it was in L.A. Yes, sir.
Loyola Marymount?
The legendary Hank Gathers and Bo Kimball. Yes, sir.
And the thing think about how Summer League has changed, man. I remember being out in LA covering stuff when Summer League was going on. I go out there to a game in just walk in. They might have charged $5. I can't remember if they even charged or not. But you go in there and see all
they charged, Ricky, but it was really cheap. Like you said, It was very affordable for everyone.
Yeah. And you go in there, and the game certainly wasn't televised. We've gone to that laid back. It wasn't laid back for you guys playing, but you know what I'm talking about, the atmosphere. It wasn't all the glitz and glamour we see now. Just from what is gone from that to where we have all the games are televised today.
It's a different time, but I'm just like you. We adjust to the times. It's a new era, and I still enjoy basketball. So I had to come out of my comfort zone somewhat and understand and try to support these young guys. And I'm glad to see these young guys get an opportunity. This is a life-changing experience for a lot of them. Some of them won't make the NBA, but it'll still get them opportunity to be seen by other teams, to be seen by other countries. And that's the biggest thing of all. It'll give a lot of these guys an opportunity to get a professional job, to get paid for a living playing the game that they love. And that's the biggest thing of all for me for the Summer League.
No doubt. We're gonna get into. I want to get your thoughts on the free agency period and as these rosters begin to take shape. Also, got some guys I want to get your thoughts on as young players. The first guy was the first player drafted by the San Antonio Spurs, and you are down in San Antonio. Your thoughts on Victor Wembanyama? He struggled his first game, had a great game his second game, and they shut him down after that. Said, we've seen enough.
Well, Victor's. Only question I had about the young man coming into the league was offensively, how he would deal with the physicality. But usually the physicality really starts and ramps up in the playoffs. So for the regular season, I think Victor's going to be doing fine. We're glad to have him here in San Antonio. But this is what people have. The one thing I can never question about him, and it was never a thought in my mind, is how well he'll play defensively. And even like in the first game, he shot 2 for 13 from the field, but his presence defensively was very known. He rebounded a little better than he did actually in Europe. And the guy is going to keep getting better every day. My questions are becoming fewer and fewer. And he's a guy that continues to work hard. He has the right mindset, very mature for a guy his age. And that's what sets him apart from me from the past. You haven't seen too many guys come in the league. He kind of reminds me, being in Texas, he reminds me of a David Robinson disposition, Ricky. That's how he carries himself. He loves the game of basketball. He never forgets about his teammates, and he's a guy that's going to work hard and give it his all every single night and continue to try to get better.
Hey, you talk about his defense. He had 13 blocks in 2 games. He had 8 blocks in one and 5 in another.
Well, it's only a few people worried about that. That's Miles Turner and Rudy Gobert and those guys, because they get ready to move over as the leading shot blockers in the league. This young man here is going to be a phenom defensively. I've already heard him compared to Bill Russell by the great Jerry West. And just the fact that you're mentioning a 19-year-old in the same breath with Bill Russell tells you how highly some of the veterans think about his game. And I can't get mad. Bill Russell defensively, I can't argue that. And also, like I said, David Robinson.
Yeah, and man, and when he sets his feet on that 3-pointer, that's a nice looking shot he has.
Hey, Ricky, I'm gonna tell you this, and I study these guys. The first game that he played, the 2 for 13. Okay, I stopped worrying so much offensively. His first basket, I believe, of game 1 was and 1. The game that he went 2 for 13, but it was a left-handed finish, and that right there kind of caught me off guard. So after that, all I started saying was, man, the sky is the ceiling for this young man. And I think he's the type guy that wants to be special. And what I mean by that is he wants to be the best player he can be, but he wants to do it in the framework of the team. And that's what I find so special about him.
Yeah, and he said that one comment that raised some eyebrows, he said the NBA is not as physical as Europe. Of course, the NBA season hasn't started yet, so.
But it's true. It's true. The NBA, if you look at it, they've taken away a lot of the physicality in the regular season they have. And in Europe, you get away. It's a physical game over there. I mean, you're talking about this 240, 220-minute halves, and so you're playing like college minutes, but every minute of that floor is very intense and it's very physical. And as you know, Luka Doncic was playing over there as a 15, 16-year-old, and he made the same comment about coming here. And yeah, because the floor is more spread, Ricky. The floor is more spread. So that right there makes it less physicality. But come playoff time, there's a lot of physicality, and that's what these guys are gonna have to work themselves up to, dealing with the real physicality. It is less physical because of the way the games are set up, but as we know, down the stretch, the NBA is just as physical.
Hey, I got some guys I want you to look at. Like I said, we're going to get into the teams and the free agency and what's happening there. Any questions and comments you have, type them in, and Derrick will address them. Another guy, and I'm so happy to see this guy here in Detroit, is
and the Raptors.
And Derrick, I think the Pistons have something in this kid. And you know what it reminds me of? I'm not saying he's going to be a Scottie Pippen, but he's just a versatile, all-around player that reminds me of Scottie.
When they took him in the draft, some of my Detroiters, my home brethren, some of them weren't too happy with the pick. But a lot of times fans aren't happy with picks when they're really not familiar with guys. So that's why I say you always have to kind of pull yourself back and, give these guys an opportunity. I think Ausar is going to be great for the Pistons. The young man can play. He plays really, really hard. I think he's surprising people with his offensive skills because he's known more as a defender. And his brother Amen was known as an offensive player. But both guys have a game, and they're going to continue to get better. I think Ausar is a great pickup for Detroit, and I'm even happier because he gets to be with a coach that will nurture him like Monty Williams. And I think that he's going to be off to a really good start. I can't wait till the season to see what he brings this year in the regular season.
Hey, are some coaches better with young players than other guys? I'm sure all coaches would love to have a veteran team. But are some guys kind of just do a better job nurturing young players than others?
You got some guys that have been coaching for years that are stuck in their ways. I can even name a coach, Tom Thibodeau, for the Knicks. Tom has never been big on rookies. He's not big on the young guys. And, there's several coaches that have been that way throughout their careers. But at this point in the game, you got to have the best players on the floor. It's not so much what year you are in your career. It's now what can you bring to your team on a nightly basis. And I think a lot of these young guys that we're watching are more mature than we've seen in the past, and they're NBA ready. So I'm just glad to see these guys get an opportunity, and I think this is going to end up being a great draft class.
And D, when you think about the draft this year, Wembanyama came from France. Brandon Miller, number 2 pick, was from Alabama. The 3rd pick, Scooter Henderson, overtime Ignite. Amen Thompson, overtime elite. Ausar, overtime elite. 4 of the first 5 players, only one went to college. These guys are already playing, I guess, at a professional level. I mean, there's nothing like the NBA level, but they are still getting that experience as a pro at a young age.
These young guys are maturing faster today. They've got all the technology. They've got everything at their disposal, and they're taking advantage of it. A lot of people don't like to give young guys an opportunity, Ricky, but I believe a ball player is a ball player. I don't care if he's 19. I don't care if he's 33. If he can play the game and he has the intelligence and he has the work ethic, those are the type guys you need to help turn your program around. So I'm hoping some of these coaches, even Tom Thibodeau, while we're on the subject, if you look at him, he has guys like Emmanuel Quigley, who I think was ready to play last year and 2 years ago. Obi Toppin, who, of course, was traded. But those guys were playing well, but they weren't given the opportunity like they should have been, in my mind, because Tibbs is old school. But you got to give these guys a chance. If you look at the draft, you can see some special players already, Ricky, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great pickup for Indiana to get Obi Toppin. And it's basically because Thibodeau just doesn't like to play young guys. Yeah, that's
Well,
a great point.
it's funny because a lot of people in New York were upset all year. And this is one thing they had a problem with. I myself thought that Toppin and Julius Randle, you have to at least give it a look and see what they looked like on the court together. And if you notice, Tibbs usually would have one on the floor instead of both of them at the same time. So as we move forward, a lot of these young guys are going to be getting action this year. They're ready. They're game ready. And they're going to continue to work on their craft. And come October, November, some of these young guys are going to be ready to surprise some people. I won't be as surprised because I have seen the skill set that some of these guys have, but they're going to surprise a lot of people moving forward.
Yeah, here's another guy wants to.
The shot. Wow, and that's what.
Didn't play last year. He may as well be a rookie this year, and that's Chet Holmgren. He has been terrific in the summer league with his play. Your thoughts on Chet?
Well, as you know, I'm very high on Chet. I was high on him in high school, actually, and Gonzaga. I think he's going to continue to get better. He's already put on 13 pounds from last season. So he's already bulked up. The question is him staying healthy, and I think this year he'll be healthy. We're looking at him and Victor Wembanyama. We're actually looking at a changing of the guard, Ricky, because the big men are still available. They're still being used, but they're being used in a different capacity now. And this is to all you big men out there. Make sure you're working on shooting that ball and putting that ball on the floor. And if you can do that, they got a nice paying job out there waiting for you. And I think Chet is going to set a very high standard. And I can't wait to see Oklahoma City start off this year. I can't wait. I'm excited about the Thunder.
Hey, and go see Derrick Gervin so he can teach you the finer points of putting the ball in the basket. Yeah, think about it. OKC was 40 and 42 last year without Holmgren. They got some good young players. They got a ton of draft picks, so they got capital. I mean, they're in the West, and the West is absolutely loaded, D. But they should be a playoff team this year, don't you think?
Oh, without question. If you look at how they finished.
I'm not talking about getting into the play-in. I mean, getting one of those top 6 spots.
For me, watching them, Ricky, they remind me of Sacramento of last season, of 2022-23. I think they're ready to make that jump this year. I think they're going to make a major leap in the standings. And if you look at their team, they don't have a bad roster. They got a lot of young guys, but as we know, Giddey will have one more year, Josh Giddey. Of course, they got a first-team All-NBA player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So they already have a good nucleus. And then adding Chet in, who I think is going to be another defensive stalwart, can only help make their team better. I'm looking at them as actually being a surprise top 4, top 5 seed this year.
Yeah. And here's another guy. And Chet, like I said, he's not a rookie. This is his second year, but he is essentially a rookie. And this could be one of the great classes in NBA history. I think that some of these guys pan out like they're showing now. It's way too early to even say that, but so we'll see. But there's a lot of potential there. And here's a guy who was great in his 19 minutes before he kind of nicked himself. And this is Scoot Henderson for the Houston Rockets. And Houston decided to shut him down. Your thoughts on Scoot?
I love Scoot. I think that's going to kind of make them go ahead and decide to finally trade Damian Lillard. And the reason I'm going to say that is because they have Scoot.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
and they also have a young.
I meant Portland.
Say it again.
I said for Houston, I meant Portland. They were playing against.
Yeah, well, I got you. We know. Hey, Ricky, but I'm gonna tell you, this guy here, for me, if everybody stays healthy during the season, Scoot is my MVP, my rookie of the year. And the scary thing is they have another young man behind him who's playing in the summer league by the name of DeVoe. This kid has been balling, point guard, 27 points, 5-6 assists. So Portland's on their way up the ladder. But Scoot, for me, is the player of this draft that I expect to do really, really good things and to probably lead Portland to a better record than they had last year. But of course, that's after they settle this Dame Lillard situation. But for me, I'm all in on Scoot Henderson, all in. My rookie of the year, if things go the way I plan this season.
Even over Wemby?
Yes, for me, yes. Scoot is going to have the ball more than Wemby. Wemby's more of the Spurs are still going to be the Spurs. And they're going to Wemby can win Rookie of the Year, but his will be mainly on the defensive end of the floor. But I just think Scoot's going to have so much, going to be playing 35, 40 minutes a night. And he does it on both ends. And the only thing holding Scoot back really is his jump shot. And I'm seeing that get better already. He's worked out in the summer with Steph Curry. But yeah, with this guy, to me, is scintillating is the word I would use, Ricky. So yes, for me, I would even rank him right now number one over Wemby as far as my rookie of the year.
Wow. Well, that's what I said. When this draft has a real chance to be special. So many outstanding players taken. I watched Jet Howard some last night. He played well. Former Michigan Wolverine, 15 points and 13 minutes for the Orlando Magic. Is it any sleep?
You see me? I gotta get.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wait, let me give up the 2 thumbs up first because you're talking my kind of scoring, 15 to 13 minutes. I love it.
Hey, is there anybody you like that's kind of under the radar, D?
Yes, Cam Whitmore dropped a potential top 5 pick, end up dropping to number 20 because of supposedly some health issues and possibly some interviews. But I've been seeing him play with the Rockets. He's playing well. He looks like a guy that could have easily been a top 5, top 6 pick, and that's the guy I'll be keeping my eyes on the most because I hate to see him drop potentially 15 slots in the draft. But his play as of now is making it seem like teams made a mistake. And he's the type guy that's going to make teams feel sorry for passing him up. So that's my biggest guy. I'll be keeping my eyes on is Cam Whitmore.
Yeah. He's taken by the Rockets with the 20th pick, 6'6" forward guard out of Villanova. And we're going to see how he works out.
Ricky, he plays at an NBA pace already. And that's the stuff I look at. I'm not looking at the teams they're playing with in the summer. I'm looking at how that individual plays. And does he look, what kind of pace does he have about himself as far as the game? And this young man has NBA written all over him. And I'm glad to see that. And he's been very impressive. The Houston Rockets as a whole have been very impressive in the summer league. And he's a big part of that.
Yeah, man. And let's get to some of the free agent stuff. First of all, and we talked about some of it on when you joined us on the African American Athlete with Mike Robertson. But there have been a lot of big time signings. LaMelo, $260 million extension. Kyrie, $126 million with the Mavericks. Chris Middleton's back with the Bucks, 3 years, $102 million. You know what? To me, man, I don't care what they make. I want to know really how these guys impact the team. Unless they're gonna give me some of that money, then I'd be very happy to know what they make. But it is, interesting to see the money that's being paid out in the NBA today with some of these guys. Jeremy Grant, 5 years, $160 million with the Blazers. But we still got a lot of questions out there. what's going to happen with James Harden, what's going to happen with Damian Lillard. Um, in fact, let's start with Damian. What do you see there, D?
Well, Dame made it clear that he wanted to go to Miami. And I'm not Dame Lillard, so I can't tell him what's the best situation for him. But I can say, when I look over these rosters, I think that the Boston Celtics are also a great team for him. I don't know what they're going to do as far as Jaylen Brown. I know they haven't extended him yet, so maybe that'll factor in. But for me, I like the Miami Heat, but I also think that with Jason Tatum in there and Porzingis, that Dame Lillard would be a really positive addition to the Celtics, especially after losing their heart and soul, Marcus Smart. And, of course, they lost another tough guy in Grant Williams. So that tells me that maybe Boston is going to focus more on offense as opposed to defensively, being known for defense. And if you're going to do that, there's no better guy to bring in than a guy that averaged 32 points a game last year. And as we know, that's Dame time.
Yeah, but him saying he only wants to go to Miami, doesn't that make it harder for a deal to be made? Because now, Miami knows, hey, he's only coming here.
Dang, in this game, Ricky, players say things sometimes just off the cuff. They don't necessarily mean that, but they'll put that out there in the media. But Dame wants to be on the winner. And if it's not Miami, there's other teams out there. As we move forward, we notice he keeps saying Miami, but he hasn't been moved yet. So at some point, you got to start thinking realistically. If it doesn't work one place, maybe you might have to open up your mind and think about playing somewhere else. And if you're going to do that, I can't ever see anyone getting mad about getting an opportunity to go to a place where they already have 17 NBA banners hanging up, NBA championships. So he says Miami, but they have a few months for this to pan out. I can see him ending up as being a Boston Celtic.
Hey, what's the difference in the way he plays as compared to the way Steph Curry plays? Both of them have extraordinary range. I think Damon may have more range than Steph.
Steph is it's a different type of game, because if you look at Dame is a high twitch guy with the dribbles and the, it's more to score. He can distribute, but Dame is in a situation where Portland needs him to be that lead scorer. Steph, as we know, is also a lead scorer, but Steph sometimes can go through a few minutes where he doesn't have to be that involved offensively, because they had the Klay Thompsons, the Jordan Pooles, and some other guys that could play on the wing. He has a little better roster for me than Dame. So we still don't know what Dame really has, Ricky, until we see him with a plan with some other players that are winners. And then that will really tell me what Dame's legacy is going to be about. Right now, it's still a question mark. We know he can score, but we haven't seen him playing with a winning team. And a lot of times when you play with a winning team, you have to sacrifice some things, and then that'll tell what kind of legacy you're going to be cementing as you move forward. But I believe in Dame Lillard, and I believe at some point he'll go to another team. I don't see him staying in Portland, and I believe he'll come out of his comfort zone. And if Boston is one of the good options for him, I think he'll sleep on it, and he'll make the right decision. I believe that.
Yeah, because he won't average 32 points a game if he goes to Boston. They won't need him.
No.
Yeah.
Well, to me, that's a move right there. Just what you said is why I would think about it.
No, I get you. Hey, speaking of saying stuff and players say stuff, at the end of the year, LeBron talked about he had to rethink. He had to think over whether he would come back this year. But I think you were saying that's just the heat of the moment stuff after you lose a series. Your thoughts on him making that decision? That's not surprising.
Look, LeBron is a media guy. I'm a boxing man as well. There's a guy, Teofimo Lopez, that retired 30 days ago. and he came out of retirement. He didn't get the response that he expected, so he had to come back so he could get some attention. And as we know, LeBron James is an attention seeker, and I can't say that's a bad thing. What he's done over 20 years has been just exceptional. But to come out and make that comment on the ESPY Awards, for me, I didn't understand it because he didn't win any awards this year. But he's a guy that, he likes being in the limelight. So I don't think there's anyone out there that honestly thought LeBron James was getting ready to retire, especially the way that they went out last year. They worked so hard to build a better team. They about drove Rob Pelinka crazy. And now he's come out and been one of the best GMs in the league the last month and a half. So there was no way LeBron was going to retire. But it is good for talk in the media.
Hey man, you talk about the Lakers and you look at the West. And like I said, I mentioned Oklahoma City. They were 10th last year. They made the play-in at 40 and 42. Last year, you had 9 teams above 500, including New Orleans at 42 and 40, without Zion for most of the year. And all these teams have made steps that they think are going to improve the team. Whether it does or not, it remains to be seen. And even Dallas, who was 38 and 44, they signed Grant Williams. They re-signed Kyrie, so they're going to have Kyrie and Luka. The West, I mean, you got a lot of teams trying to load up to catch Denver, who lost some guys. They lost Bruce Brown, man. And I think that's a big loss for them. They're going to have to replace the little stuff he was doing to make them a better team. Let's talk about the West. Phoenix, they got Bradley Beal. Memphis won't have Ja, but they'll get him for the second half of the year. Your thoughts on the West?
Oh boy, it's kind of like last year when we went into the last season. It was hard to pick 4 or 5 teams to come out of the West, the top 4. It's going to be the same this year, and the reason it's going to be because teams like Sacramento have continued to get better. We talked about Oklahoma City. I think they're on their way up. The Houston Rockets are trying to get something going. They've got some young guys, but they put together quite a nice core. There's so many teams over here.
And they signed Van Fleet.
Fred Van Vliet with the $43 million a year. So and I don't think he went there to lose. So there's going to be teams, if you look at it, that's going to continue to try to get better. And then it's interesting you brought up New Orleans because we still don't know the situation with Zion. He has talked recently about he had trouble, staying on his diet the first few years in the league, and now he seems to be taking that serious. Well, at least that's what he said verbally. So we'll see if the proof is in the pudding when the season starts. But if Zion's healthy, you got a healthy Chet Holmgren. You got Van Vliet leading Houston to become a better team. You got Oklahoma City. It's going to be crazy, Ricky. And we don't even know Golden State situation yet. We know Draymond has signed to stay there, but I think Golden State still has a couple more moves to make. So it's going to be a very interesting summer. And the sad thing is you cannot take a day off now if you're a GM or one of these personnel people. It's an everyday thing because you don't want to get left behind. And the league is right now is flourishing.
Hey, your thoughts on something new this year? The NBA is going to have a mid-season tournament. I got a little thing I'm going to play here for our viewers that kind of explains it.
I'll let you explain. Let's watch this video.
All right, everybody, the NBA first ever in-season tournament is now official. But how does it work? Like this. First up is group play. All 30 teams will be split into 6 groups. 3 from the East, 3 from the West, with a random draw based on last year's regular season records. Each team in a group plays each other one time, a total of 4 games, 2 at home, 2 on the road.
1, 2, 3, yeah.
Now, those games happen Tuesdays and Fridays in November, so set your calendar. Basically, these regular season NBA games also count as tournament games. Now, in each group, the team with the best group play record after those 4 games, they're moving on. The team with the next best record in each conference, those 2 are the wild cards. Always watch out for the wild cards. Now, we get to the knockout round. 8 teams, single elimination, and you know what that means. Win and move on, or lose, and you're out. And the last 4 teams standing, guess what? You're headed to Vegas, baby. That's right. In Las Vegas, the semifinal battles will get us to the championship game on December 9th. 2 teams in a winner-take-all final to be named champion and be awarded the first ever NBA Cup. Come on now. Look, there's a lot to look forward to this season. Players on new teams, rookies new to the league, and teams just looking to make some noise. And the NBA in-season tournament is going to be a can't-miss, must-see, high-stakes, high-level competition. And if you're a hoops head just like me, I promise you, you're going to love it.
Beginning November the 3rd. Your thoughts on the mid-season tournament? And you've played overseas, D.
It's the beginning of the season tournament. It's kind of confusing to me, but I guess we have to give it a try. It kind of reminds me now of the European Euro League. When they have the Euro, you have to advance and all of that. It's difficult. I guess when people get the hang of it, maybe it'll be easily for me to give an explanation. Right now, I'm kind of I don't know where I stand, Ricky, but it's something new. I'm going to support it, of course, because they're going to give it a look. And me being a former NBA player, I'm going to support it. But I don't know what that does for the NBA. I know it adds revenue, but other than that, I don't know what any of that has to do with who's going to win the NBA championship. So I have to give it a shot and learn a little more about it before I can talk too much about it.
Yeah, because you're not gonna have a parade for winning the in-season cup, are you?
No, I don't get it, to be honest. But I'm gonna try to stay. I'm not gonna be skeptical. I'm gonna try to be supportive and hope Adam Silver and his group have come up with another idea. And the reason I'm gonna give it a chance is because I didn't like the play-in games at first. But I've gotten used to them, and they're really it's not a bad thing. So I'm going to keep a positive attitude until we learn a little more. But, it's something new, and they're going to give it a chance, so I'm going to support it.
And that's a great point, because I'm like, dude, you played all that all year long, and you earned that 7th and 8th spot. Now you got to play in to get that spot, but it is added excitement. Think about Miami. They actually lost their opening round game of the play-in last year, then got hot and made it all the way to the finals. So that is the kind of excitement. But I'm wondering, is this something, because, now with the load management, I know the NBA doesn't like seeing superstars sit. Could this be something to get the stars to play more? I know they have to play at least 65 games now to be eligible for postseason awards. But if you need to rest the guy, I mean, hey.
Hey, Ricky, that's why I don't understand them putting in this tournament, because you've already established that guys have to play at least 65 games to be available for these awards, these all-NBA teams and stuff like that. And that alone helped with the load management situation. I don't think this is going to take away load management, because if you have certain guys that have played 10, 12 years, like a Kawhi Leonard or whoever they may be, that's coming off getting his knee cleaned out and all that, you're still going to have guys that are going to be missing games. So I don't really understand what the point is of having this in-season tournament in November. But like I said, I guess we'll find out more as we move forward. I'm gonna just support it until we know more.
I mean, you gonna put a banner up for winning that? I mean, I'm kind of with you there. Now, if I got a young team like my Pistons, maybe if they get in the tournament, get hot, hey, some experience playing in a playoff type atmosphere, but that's not really a playoff type.
Rick, here's a question for me. Even if you win this tournament in November, what does that do? Because the season's not over until May. So what? I'm just trying to understand the logistics. I don't get it. What is the purpose? Is what I would like to see someone really explain.
Well, you gave the purpose. I mean, it's going to generate some money.
Well, we know it's revenue, but other than that, I mean, how does that benefit? It helps, I guess, the young players. It gives them a chance to get more acclimated to the league a little quicker. But other than that, other than the revenue, I can't figure out what it does for these players, how it excites 10, 15, 20-year veterans. I don't see them being too excited to play in this kind of tournament.
Yeah. And we're talking about LeBron's going to be in his 21st year. I know he's not going to be – that's not why he's playing, to win an in-season cup. And he's going to sit. He'll probably play – if he doesn't really get hurt, he'll probably play 65 games next year.
Yeah.
Chris Paul. I mean, some of these older stars, it is appropriate to rest these guys. But I also get the fans' point, man, I want to see Chris Paul when they come to town, especially when they come east from the west or whatever, or vice versa. So,
well, you do the math. Do you see Chris Paul? Do you see LeBron? What's the purpose of LeBron and Anthony Davis playing 40 minutes in November if you're trying to have them ready come May and June? So that's what the part that I got to see as we move forward. That's the part I don't get. These guys they don't want to be playing in these unnecessary tournaments. What does that really do? What does that do for your legacy? Nothing.
Hey, let's get back to some of the off-season moves. What additions do you like, D?
Well, I still got a couple moves that I want to see happen. Every year I talk about Pascal Siakam. I want to see him get moved to a team. And I want to say, I'm going to throw this out there for the listeners. And I am in San Antonio.
Toronto is ready to deal him if the price is.
We got a spot down here, Ricky, but we got to have two players, though. So we mentioned Dame earlier. I think I've seen the Spurs being mentioned on Dame's radar lately. I don't know how true that is if it'll come to fruition. But how about the San Antonio Spurs with Dame Lillard and Pascal Siakam? So for me, that would be a great move. Every year, I'm on the Pascal Siakam bandwagon. I think he's a player that deserves to have another opportunity to win. I think any team that he went to would right away become a contender, a better team. And so it's guys like him that makes this interesting for me. Dame, of course. But, man, the NBA is still going to thrive. And I just want to see Zach LaVine is another one, Ricky. I have to throw him in. There's been talk about him being moved. If you look at Chicago, they've talked about Vucevic being moved. They talked about DeRozan, and now we're hearing about Zach LaVine. And so if LaVine were to go to another team, I'm sure that would be a contending team. But we have to also look at what they would have to give up to get these guys. Because these guys make nice salaries. So you have to give up some first or second round draft picks. And I don't know how many teams are willing to do that for Zach LaVine. But it's players like him that I'll keep my eyes on, and Pascal Siakam, and there are a few others, Christian Wood, the guy, and my guy, I got to put him in there since no one's picked him up yet, even though he averaged 20 points a game last year. I'm giving a shout out to you guys in the NBA, and ladies and guys, remember Kelly Oubre is still available.
Yeah. And I looked at Chicago, and then, there's questions that Lonzo Ball career could be over at 25. He's really having trouble with that knee, and he was playing so well, and then he got hurt. And Chicago, they still have DeMar DeRozan, who's just found a second life after leaving Toronto, and but he's 33. So I wonder if Chicago's going to be looking to maybe start all over, and they got some pieces they can move with Levine and DeRozan.
Patrick Williams.
Yep, the big guy, Patrick Williams and Vukovic. He's 32. He's a good, solid player.
Ricky,
Yeah.
you see the players you just named. To me, that's a pretty good start that's a pretty good roster in the Eastern Conference for me. So I don't think they should be doing addition by subtraction. I think maybe they should be trying to keep that core together and bring in another potential star that could take some of the pressure off Levine and DeRozan. But that's not a bad team. And Patrick Williams is continuing to get better. So I don't think that's a team that you start over with. I think that's a team that you just bring in an additional piece like a Dame or someone like that may be out there on the radar. So I can't see the Bulls starting completely over. And I don't believe Billy Donovan is ready to start over either.
Yeah, I'm sure. I guarantee you he's not. Billy Donovan's one of the most competitive guys out there. Christian Wood, man, the one thing he's going to bring your team is some firepower on the offensive team, on the offensive end. I think he'd be a good fit in Chicago.
He's another guy that's proof about behavior, Ricky. His problem started in Houston. He had some problems his rookie year, I believe, him and Kevin Porter Jr. And as you know, sometimes when you get a reputation in the league, as you know, it's hard to get rid of those reputations. Some teams just still harp on the person that you were a few years ago. And I think that's hurting Christian Wood, because if you look at it, he's a heck of a player with all-star potential. I don't know what he brings to the locker room as far as behavior now, but anytime you got a guy that's capable of giving you 20 and 10 a night, and he is capable of that, I'm still kind of don't understand what's the holdup on Christian Wood. He seemed like he behaved in Dallas. We didn't hear too many negative things about him, so I don't know what's the holdup with him. I think he's a very good player, a guy that has potential all-star game potential.
Yeah. Will James Harden finish the year and start the year in Philly?
No. I just don't see it. I think there's been too much that's been going on. I know they've gotten Embiid involved where he's been talking lately, but I don't think that's ever been a good thing when you get Joel start talking. He has a habit of making guys want to kind of step out the door. But I just think the only reason that James is still there is because of Daryl Morey. They have a heck of a relationship between the two of them. They're basically friends and not just a business relationship. They seem to have a really good friendship, and I think that's been the hold up. But I just think at the end of the day, I can't see them bringing James back and sacrificing another year of Tyrese Maxey's career. I think it's time to hand Tyrese the ball and let him and Embiid see how far they can take the team. Of course, Tobias is still there right now. Paul Reed and Shaq Milton and all these guys are still there. So I think that's a good nucleus, but I don't think James, for me, 100%, James will not be a Philadelphia 76er next year.
Yeah. But for the Sixers, as good as Joel is, they got to find somebody to run with him outside of Tobias. Tobias is a solid player, but he's not the difference maker Harden can be.
You know what's missing from Harden, though, Ricky? If you look at him as a point guard, he's not the type like a Chris Paul, a John Stockton type of guy that's going to tell you where you need to go and, you do your job. James Harden is not that kind of player. Harden is more of a me player, is what he's been used to. And if I looked at it, I thought he would have been happy this past season with his new role, the 21 points and 10 assists, 11 assists. But he wasn't happy with that role, and that's the reason he wants out of Philadelphia. He didn't like the way they had him playing, and I thought it was a great way that they had him playing. So maybe he's more about his legacy as opposed to winning as a team, as being a team guy.
I don't understand that because his 11 assists led the league in assists. Why would you not be?
He didn't like that. He didn't like that. He didn't like that role. He's made it clear recently that he didn't like the role that he was playing. That they had him, that Doc, and him and Doc, they didn't seem to get along too well. They didn't have the greatest relationship, and it seemed to carry on all season. And to be honest, I believe he's the main reason that Doc Rivers is gone. I think that James, and that's what makes it so crazy. I believe they made that move for James Harden. I believe he asked for Doc to be removed to give him an opportunity to return. And now he's returned, right? And he's still on the roster, but we still don't know if he's going to stay or not. And I think that's crazy. I think Daryl went over and back, Daryl Morey, to get James to stay there. But even we know James Harden has still talked about returning to Houston. So, I mean, is James Harden being James Harden once again?
But I just read a piece before we came on the air. The Clippers are a team that's really interested in Harden. Now, how does he fit in with Kawhi and Paul George?
Offensively fits in well, but their problem has not been offense. Well, it's keeping Kawhi and Paul George healthy. And when they're healthy, they haven't had any problems scoring the ball. So it looked like for me, they would be trying to bring in a point guard that's gonna take care of the ball. Because if you look at the Clippers, the last 4 or 5 years, they're a team that's very talented, but they never live up to their building. They kind of remind me. I'm gonna tell you, I love Kawhi, but him and Paul George, they kind of remind me of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They're very talented players. But a lot of times they make lazy plays, boneheaded plays that you really can't explain. And that's usually what happens come playoff time. They make a lot of unnecessary plays. They gamble. They do things they shouldn't do. They come out of character. And so maybe Harden can fix that, but I don't see how. I would be looking more like for a point guard like Van Vliet, Chris Paul, those type of point guards. So maybe they'll end up going with James, but maybe they'll end up being Russell Westbrook. We'll see.
Hey, you mentioned Chris Paul. How do you like him in Golden State with Steph and Clay on the wings?
I love it, Ricky. The only problem is that they still haven't addressed their big man situation yet. They still need a rim protector. So they can bring in 3 Chris Pauls, but who's going to protect that rim come playoff time? The one thing I can tell you about the team, it'll be more disciplined.
Come playoff time.
Yeah, well, see, the team will be more disciplined with Chris Paul, but they still got to address. I've seen a lineup put out there, Ricky, of Steph, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Andrew Wiggins. And if you look at that lineup, that's a good lineup, a good small ball lineup for 15, 20 minutes a game. But that's not an NBA championship lineup. So they still going to have to address the situation. They're going to have to find someone to replace that big loss in James Wiseman. And until they do that, I can't get on the Warriors bandwagon, even with the addition of Chris Paul.
Yeah, I totally with you there. Couple more before we get out of here. The Bradley Beal to the Suns, man, they are going to be prolific offensively on paper. Wait a minute. You just mentioned before I go there, the Clippers. I know I was looking at him as you said that. You don't think Westbrook can run that offense?
No, not as your starter. Russ has a tendency to just when he has freedom. We've seen where that's taken him, and we've seen that where that's taken his teams. Russ is the type guy you got to kind of pull the reins in on him. And I like Russell Westbrook at this point in his career as a 20 to 24-minute guy. I don't see him as a 35-minute guy if you're trying to win the championship, Ricky. I love him skill-wise. We know he's had all the triple-doubles, but Russ is not the smartest point guard you've ever seen. And I mean that. He's a very talented guy, but he's not that guy that you need. The guy that they need, the type point guard they need, is actually on their bench. Ty Lue is the type point guard they need. So when you got Harden and Russ, neither one of those two guys have that disposition of a Ty Lue. So I like the Clippers, but I think until they figure that point guard out spot, they come up short again.
Yeah. Now, quickly, Phoenix, boy, they got some firepower.
Who's going to be the conductor of the train, Ricky? Is it going to be Devin Booker? Is it going to be Landry Shamet? I mean, not Landry Shamet, Cameron Payne. So that's the question. I don't see Cameron Payne as a starter in the NBA for a winning team, and I don't see Devin Booker sacrificing his game that much where he becomes basically a player like James Harden was in Phoenix last year. Maybe they can talk Devin Booker into that role, but I don't think Devin Booker is a great ball handler to deal with that kind of pressure all season when guys like a Patrick Beverly are going to be picking you up full court. So there's still some questions with that roster to be answered for me before I can really give you my true feelings about the Phoenix Suns.
What about on the defensive end?
Well, I mean, Bradley Beal plays decent defense, pretty good defense. But, you know, Devin Booker's not a top flight defender. They've got a few guys on their team could defend. TJ Warren, I believe he'll play more this year. Terrence Ross, I believe, will be back. He's a defender. But they're going to have to try to figure out who's going to run the offense because, you know, when you got three superstars, you always have to have that conductor of the train. And that's a John Stockton type guy, a Walt Frazier type guy. That's the type guy that they need, and that's what they're missing right now. So until they figure that out, I'm going to feel about Phoenix like I did last season. They'll have a very good season, and then they'll come up short in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, dude, we're gonna get out of here, man. It's been a great hour. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We got a lot to talk about as we go forward. We'll have some more summer league talk, some more free agency talk. But until next Thursday, from my great friend Derrick Gervin, I'm Rick Hampton. Peace, everybody.
Ricky, I love you, man. Peace, and thanks for tuning in.